Have you ever questioned what true bravery is? It's a concept that people often wrestle with. Some say bravery is about standing up to danger, facing your fears head-on, even when your knees are shaking and your heart is pounding like a drum. Others argue that bravery is not just about overcoming fear, but about pushing through in spite of it. It's about taking that leap of faith even when you're not sure where you'll land. Then there's another perspective that believes bravery is about doing what's right even when it's hard or scary. It's about standing up for justice, speaking out against wrongs, and refusing to be silenced. It's about making tough decisions even when they're uncomfortable or unpopular. All these definitions hold truth, and yet they allude to a profound reality. Bravery often involves confronting fear. But what if someone told you that bravery could start as a mere pretense? Imagine a young man, Mark, who was always afraid of public speaking. Picture this: a lad in his prime, filled with potential, yet stifled by a crippling fear. A fear that doesn't lurk in the shadows or hide under the bed, rather one that arises in broad daylight, on stages, in conference rooms, in classrooms. This fear was not of a monstrous creature or a perilous situation, but a fear of public speaking, a fear of standing before a crowd and sharing his thoughts. Mark was that young man. He was smart, creative, and full of ideas. But the moment he was asked to share those ideas in front of others, his heart would race, his palms would sweat, and his mind would go blank. This fear began to hold him back. It made him turn down opportunities. It made him blend into the background when he was meant to shine. It made him silence his voice when he was meant to speak out. But one day, Mark had a realization. He understood that his fear was not going to magically disappear. It was a part of him. But he also realized that he had the power to control how he reacted to his fear. He could continue to let it hold him back, or he could choose to face it head-on. And so he made a decision to pretend. Pretend to be confident, pretend to be brave, pretend to be everything he wished he could be. He knew it wouldn't be easy. He knew he would still feel the fear, but he also knew that he had to try. He understood that sometimes you have to fake it till you make it. And so he started pretending. He stood on stages, he spoke in meetings, he raised his voice in classrooms, all the while pretending to be confident, pretending to be fearless. And so Mark embarked on his journey of pretense, masking his fear with a facade of bravery. He understood that the world wouldn't know the difference between his pretense and real courage. And slowly, he started to believe it too. As Mark continued to play his role, a strange thing started happening. The mask of bravery he had donned was no longer just a mask. It was gradually seeping into his core, transforming him from within. Mark had initially put on this act of bravery as a sort of survival mechanism, a way to navigate through the difficult and daunting situations he found himself in. But as the days turned into weeks and weeks into months, Mark noticed a subtle shift. The fear that once consumed him was beginning to recede. It was not completely gone, but it had lessened, and in its place, something new was growing. Confidence. Now, confidence is a funny thing. It doesn't just appear overnight. It's not something you can simply decide to have. It's built slowly, over time, through experiences and successes, but also through failures and mistakes. And that's exactly what was happening to Mark. His pretense of bravery was giving him the experiences he needed to build true confidence. Every time he faced a challenge head-on, every time he stood his ground despite the fear gnawing at his insides, he was growing stronger, more resilient. He was not only surviving these situations, he was learning from them, evolving. His pretend courage was becoming a tool for self-improvement. Mark began to notice changes in his behavior, in the way he carried himself. His stride was more confident, his voice steadier. He was making decisions more quickly, trusting in his ability to make the right choices. His interactions with others changed too. He was more assertive, more outspoken. He found that people were responding to him differently, with more respect, more admiration. But the most significant change was in how he felt about himself. He was starting to believe in his own strength, in his own capacity to overcome challenges. His self-doubt was being replaced with self-assurance. He was beginning to see himself not as a pretender, but as someone who was genuinely brave. And so the line between pretense and reality began to blur. The act of pretending to be brave had sparked a real transformation inside Mark. His fear was still there, yes, but it was no longer a roadblock. It was now a stepping stone, a catalyst for growth. And that's the magic of pretense. It allows us to step into the shoes of the person we aspire to be. It gives us the opportunity to experience what it's like to be that person, to live as that person. And in doing so, we start to become that person. Mark was no longer pretending to be brave, he was becoming brave. And that, my friends, is the power of transformation. What Mark didn't realize at first was that his act of pretense was actually a powerful tool. Now you might be wondering, how can pretending to be brave eventually lead to actual bravery? Well, let's delve into some psychological concepts to shed light on this phenomenon. Ever heard of the idea, fake it till you make it? It's a strategy often used in various aspects of our lives, from boosting confidence to mastering new skills. The premise is simple: by pretending to be something you're not, you can eventually become it. In Mark's case, he pretended to be brave. Over time, this act of pretense became more than just an act. It transformed into his reality. Now let's introduce another concept: the self-fulfilling prophecy. This is a prediction that directly or indirectly causes itself to become true due to positive feedback between belief and behavior. In other words, if you believe you can be brave, you're more likely to act bravely, which in turn reinforces your belief in your bravery. Sounds intriguing, right? So let's circle back to our friend Mark. He started off pretending to be brave, even though he was filled with fear. But as he continued to act brave, he began to believe in his own bravery. This belief then influenced his behavior, leading him to take actions that were genuinely brave. And so, the cycle continued, reinforcing his bravery each time. Sure, it wasn't an overnight transformation. It took time, effort, and a lot of pretending. But eventually, Mark's pretense of bravery turned into genuine courage. And that's the power of pretense. It's not about lying to yourself or others. It's about setting a goal, believing in it, and acting in ways that make it a reality. Mark's story is a testament to the power of pretense and the mind's ability to reshape reality. So next time you're faced with a challenge, remember Mark. Pretend to be brave, even if fear is gnawing at your heart. You might just surprise yourself by becoming the brave person you pretended to be. So, what can we learn from Mark's journey? We've delved into the profound concept of bravery, a term we all seem to understand. But when asked to define, we may stumble. Bravery isn't just about heroic deeds or fearless actions. It's about the courage to face our fears, no matter how daunting they may seem. We've learned about Mark, an ordinary person with extraordinary courage. His story of pretense, of acting brave even when his heart was filled with fear, illustrates the power of our mind. Mark taught us that sometimes the line between pretense and genuine courage is so thin it's almost invisible. His transformation was nothing short of remarkable. He went from someone who was scared of his own shadow to someone who faced his fears head-on. He showed us that the journey to bravery isn't a sprint, but a marathon. It's about taking one step at a time, no matter how small, towards the direction of courage. We also explored the power of pretense. Often we think of pretense in a negative light, as something deceptive or superficial. But in the context of bravery, pretense can be a powerful tool. It's about putting on a brave face, even when we are trembling inside. It's about standing tall, even when we feel like crumbling. It's about projecting strength, even when we feel weak. And sometimes, that's all it takes. Sometimes pretending to be brave is the first step towards real bravery. It's about creating a self-fulfilling prophecy, where our actions, no matter how insincere they may seem at first, can eventually lead to genuine feelings of courage. Mark's journey is a testament to this. He pretended to be brave, and in the process he became brave. His story is a powerful reminder that bravery isn't something that's bestowed upon us. It's something that we cultivate within ourselves. Remember, sometimes all it takes to be brave is to pretend to be.